We have been talking about balanced networks. We are not really going to talk about unbalanced networks at all. We are only going to talk about balanced networks. So what we saw was that if I have a network and a mirror reflection of that, so a black box containing some elements, another black box which is identical to it, and a mirror reflection of it, and connections in between. And if I apply plus V on one side and minus V on the other side, then all the nodes in between have a voltage which is identically equal to 0, and this is, you are getting this purely from a point of view of symmetry. Okay. Similarly, if I have plus V and plus V on both sides, then all the nodes in between conduct 0 amperes of current. And then we said that we are not going to be using linear components. This holds true only for linear components inside the boxes: resistors, capacitors, inductors, transformers, voltage control, voltage sources, and so on. I would like to have MOSFETs inside my black boxes. Then I can say the same thing only when plus V and minus V are small signals. Okay, so I need to replace this capital letter by a small letter, and now the same earlier identities hold true. All right. The next thing is that what if they are sinusoids? So it's the same deal, right? If plus V and let's say the other side is minus V. If plus V and minus V are sinusoids in their own terms, the other one being negative of the first one, 180 degrees phase difference between the two, then in between the voltages will be 0. Okay? What if plus V and minus V are not small signals, but sinusoids? So now this is what it contains, right? Two boxes, identical mirror reflections of each other. Now I am telling you that plus V and minus V are sinusoids, but capital letters. Aha, we hear about harmonics. Very good. Yes? Harmonics will be there because of non-linearity. Okay. What can you say about the harmonics? Can you say anything about the harmonics? Even harmonics? What can you say? You're right. What can you say? Do you guys know about the harmonics? Suppose, I don't see a lot of people responding here. Suppose my box, this black box that I'm talking about, suppose I want to talk about the function between this input, this is my input, and let's say this one is the output. So suppose I want to evaluate this input-output relationship. It's a generic nonlinear block. Okay. if it is time invariant, non-linear but time invariant. If it is non-linear but time invariant, then I can describe the relationship between x and y as some kind of a polynomial. If it is time invariant, it's very important. Time invariance is important. So if I would like to describe y as a function of x, then I can say that f is going to be some polynomial, arbitrarily complicated. It might have huge number of terms, infinite number of terms, but maybe, most probably, not most probably, I will be able to describe it in this fashion. Maybe it has an infinite number of terms, no problem. So it's going to look something like this. Okay? Now, suppose this x is a sine wave. What is y going to be? So suppose x is a sine wave. Yes, I have the answer from you. So suppose x is e power j omega t. Okay? Then A0 is going to give me a DC component. A1 is going to give me the same thing. A2 is going to give me the second harmonic. A3 is going to give me the third harmonic, and so on and so forth. Okay? So if you look at the spectrum of the input, if you do a frequency transform of the input, you will see two impulses. Let's say it's a cosine. You will see two impulses at plus and minus omega 0. You remember all this, right? Two impulse functions at plus omega 0 and minus omega 0. Impulse functions of magnitude half. Am I right? Okay, is this fine? Okay. Now, this is the frequency transform of the input. The frequency transform of the output will look like what? Generally, you don't have to give me any numbers here. What will it look like? Many impulses at only the harmonic at the fundamental and at the harmonic frequencies.
If the magnitude of the main frequency, these harmonics would be dying away.
No, harmonics are there because of A1, A2, etc. These are unknown numbers, so don't assume that they are going to die away. Maybe they will be there. But what I want to carry across here is that if this system is non-linear time invariant, okay, you will get the fundamental and you will get the harmonics. You will get nothing else. Nothing else. Okay, so if I give you an input of 1 kilohertz, the output will have 1 kilohertz, 2 kilohertz, 3 kilohertz, and so on. Nothing will come out at 0.5 kilohertz, however hard you try. Okay, nothing will come out at 1.5 kilohertz. Okay, I want this to be very clear. If the system is time invariant, whether it's linear or non-linear, it doesn't matter. Okay, as long as your system is time invariant, if the input is at a frequency f, the output is going to be at frequency f, 2f, etc. Not at half f, not at 3 by 2f, not at 2/3 f. Alright? Is this very clear? So what kind of a system is this? sequential system, fine. What kind of system is it? Yes, I am dividing the frequency by 2. So what kind of system is this? My input is at frequency 1 kilohertz, output is at half kilohertz. What kind of system is this? This has to be time varying system. Okay, why is it time varying? No, it's fine. And what's fundamental about this that makes it time? No, that's fine. What circuit block is there because of which it is time varying? MOSFETs, no. This also sequential. No, I can't give the right answer. You should be able to give an answer. There's memory. Okay, the D flip-flop is a memory element. So if you have memory in the system, then it's time varying because it remembers the past. Right? So any setup which has memory elements inside, what could be memory elements? Capacitors? No. Pre-charged capacitors? Probably. What else? Anything which has hysteresis. Okay, suppose you are using an iron core inductor. That will have hysteresis. That will make the system time varying. Okay, because it has hysteresis. Okay, anything which has memory creates a non-LTI, non-PI system. Whether linear, non-linear, doesn't matter. Then strange things happen. This has a memory element. Okay? Strange things happen. How do you make a memory element? Cross-coupled MOSFETs, cross-coupled inverters, which have positive feedback. Okay? So if you have positive feedback, the system is going to become time varying. Okay, I'm making a lot of leaps here, but try to understand something very specific about that system. So we are not going to discuss that kind of a system which has built-in positive feedback, which has memory inside. We are going to avoid such complications. Makes life difficult. Oscillator is a time varying system because there is no input to the oscillator. Positive feedback is yes. If you observe the output right now and if you observe the output a little bit later, output can be different. In any case, there is no input. Okay? So, we understand that both of these blocks will generate harmonics and nothing else. Okay, assume that these are PI systems. Fantastic. Why? Minus, so on one side X is positive, on the other side X is negative. So now you do your whatever you were doing earlier and you will see that the odd harmonics won't be there at the cross points in terms of voltage. Okay? So I'm not going to do the detailed analysis of this, but what you can show as your homework or as a side or in your free time, you can show that if I have plus V and minus V on the two sides, I can say something about the voltages. So no odd harmonics at the cross points, right? And you can similarly also say that if I have plus V and plus V on, right, that's why I'm saying I'm doing some hand waving. Okay, you have to do the correct math sitting at home. Right now I'm going to fool you into believing this is correct. This is correct. Okay, so this is something that I've written down. I've given a hand waving proof of one of the 4 items here. The rest are for you to find out. Yeah, something like that. You'll have to figure the rest out. All of these apply no matter what the system is inside. Okay, as long as you don't have memory elements. Once you start putting in some memory stuff, you can say nothing. No such, I can't construct any theorem. These are some theorems that I have written down. The proof is up to you to figure out. I have given a kind of a proof which Somnath has already contested. He's right. Okay? So these are going to be some starting points for me. All right. Okay. Now we are going to start doing some circuits. Now, the first thing that we are going to attempt doing is trying to use the MOSFETs as current sources. So, to start with, the premise of the story is that the MOSFET is like a voltage controlled current source. So I should be able to build a current source. I mean, the MOSFET is already a voltage controlled current source. I should be able to make use of it. So suppose I apply Vx at the input, at the gate of the MOSFET. What can you say about the current going through the MOSFET? Right? Now, if you want to use this MOSFET as a current source, what is a current source? It's something that carries a constant amount of current. So, if I want to use this MOSFET as a current source, then what do I have to do? What do you mean by bias in saturation? V out is going to the outside world. Huh? Okay. No, I'm not talking about the equations here. See, this V out is going to the outside world. Okay? I plan to use this MOSFET as a current source to ground naturally. The other terminal is the ground. I want to use this MOSFET as something like this. Can I use it like this? Yes, as long as this voltage is greater than some value over here, which you are claiming that it is equal to VGS minus VT. Fine, fantastic. Everyone knows this VGS minus VT business? Or do I have to? I didn't talk about it in the course. I mean, so far I haven't talked about it. So, seems like you know it, so no problem. So, as long as the voltage on the other side of the current source is more than VGS minus VT, this is going to act like a current source. Is that true? Vx is constant. Fine. Is that true still? Is it the current source? Output resistance. So this current source is not an ideal current source. It's really going to have some resistance in shunt with it. How much resistance will it have in shunt? Delta V out by delta I, that's fantastic. In terms of the MOSFET, we call it RDS. So, if I look in from outside, I can draw the small signal model of this MOSFET. So, let's say I know beforehand that this voltage is some V alpha. Okay, I know beforehand that voltage is going to be V alpha. So I look up V alpha on this curve and find the slope here, evaluate the small signal model at that point V alpha, and that small signal model is basically going to look like this. Right? Now, is Vx changing? Will Vx change if I change V alpha? No. Right? Vx is something which is internal to the current source. Most probably I have a voltage source connected there, something connected over there. Vx is not going to change when V alpha changes. So capital Vx is not going to change. So in that case, what is the value of small vx? 0. So when a voltage is not going to change, the small signal version of it is equal to 0 volts, which means I can connect it to ground. So in that case, what's the value of this current source? This current source, what is the value? Gm times VGS. What is VGS here? 0. So the value of that current source is equal to 0. So I can delete it. Okay. So if you look in from outside, the resistance you see is how much? Just this value. Whatever the value is, that is the resistance that you observe. If there was a capacitor in shunt with it, then you would see the combined impedance. Agreed? So this, yes. So if the small signal model was more complicated, then you had capacitor here, capacitor here, capacitor. What's the body voltage here in the small signal? The body voltage is not going to change, so as a result I am going to ground it. Okay, so suppose this is my complicated model. Now CGS, both sides of CGS are connected to ground. So CGS plays no role. I can delete CGS. Both sides of CVS are also ground, so I can delete that particular one. So looking in from the output, the total capacitance I see is how much? CDB plus CGD. This is the total amount of capacitance that I see looking in from outside. And looking in from outside, the resistance that I see is RDS. So effectively what I see is an impedance which is RDS in shunt with this capacitance. Okay, how do you describe an impedance like this? Using a Laplace transform. Up to speed? Everyone knows Laplace transforms, I hope? Okay. So in that case, what I am going to see is RDS in shunt with 1 by S CGD plus CDB. Okay, and then you can evaluate this further, and what are you going to get? RDS by 1 plus S okay, so you can do the mathematics. I have jumped probably one step, not much. Is this correct? What I've done? I mean, the parallel basically, parallel of two impedances is Z1 times Z2 divided by Z1 plus Z2. So that's what I've done, and I've simplified a little bit. No approximations. Okay? Where is the pole going to be? Is there a pole here? Is there a zero? No. Where is the pole? What's the unit of pole? What are the dimensions? Frequency. What are the dimensions of R times C? Time. Okay? So a pole will be 1 by RC. Fantastic? Any problems so far? No problems. Okay. I'm clear? Okay. So this is what I see looking in from outside. Okay, so what does that mean to you? So I'm giving you a current source. I'm telling you that hopefully in this entire region RDS is more or less the same, hopefully, and hopefully see the values of the capacitances are also more or less the same. Okay, small changes will be there, but it doesn't matter. So I am telling you that over this entire region, this particular current source has an output impedance which is basically a resistance in parallel with some capacitance. I am giving you the values of these two the resistance and the capacitance. What does this mean to you? What are you going to do with this? What do you understand? Okay, I probably don't understand what you said, but all right, let's keep it aside. Anything else?
The pure frequency is same as the resonance.
There is no resonance.
Whole frequency. And you get the maximum.
No. The pole frequency is on the. Okay, so let's clarify this. This is my S plane. Where is the pole here? Negative half plane, left half plane. The pole is on the real axis. This is the agreed? What's your name? Divyesh. Yes. This is fine. Pole is somewhere over there. Can your input ever have that frequency? If your input is a sinusoid of frequency omega, where is it? On this plane. It's always on the j omega axis. Okay? So your input is always going to be on the j omega axis, on this axis. This is imaginary S. Okay? So your input is never going to go there. Let's clarify, get this out of the way. So you can't produce an input which has the pole frequency. Alright. Anyone else? What does this mean to you? A current source has an impedance of Z. What does this mean to you? Output impedance of Z. Forget the frequency. Let's say I say that the current source has a resistance R. What does this mean to you? Yes. So if I change the voltage across the current source, then the current will change by a small amount. If I change it by V, then the current through the current source will change by V by. This is all it means. Okay? Now you go in terms of frequency. If you change it by, if you change the amplitude by V, then the current will change by V by Z. Alright? So this is what I was looking for. Not terribly complicated answers. Okay. Now, I want a constant current source. I don't like this. This particular current source is no good to me. If I change the value of the voltage, the current changes. That's not a current source. Right? That's hardly a current source. I mean, want a constant current source. What should I be doing? Feedback. Okay. Hmm? Okay. Very clear, Manas. You have to increase the value of the output resistance. Okay, if I can make the output resistance infinity, then that's what I want. Most probably I won't be able to make it infinity, but can I increase the output resistance of the current source? Which brings you to the question, what is the output resistance of the current source right now? It is RDS. Any idea of what these values are? Could be. Not really. Like a little on the higher side. I would not like to give you values, okay, but this I can tell you that GM times RDS, this product. Look, in a MOSFET, values are immaterial. I mean, a value of a resistance is not something well defined. But the value of a dimensionless quantity is probably better understood. Right? So that's why I'm going to tell you the value of GM times RDS. What's the dimension of GM times RDS? No dimension. GM has units of Siemens and RDS has ohms. So Siemens times ohms is 1. So the value of GM times RDS in a MOSFET under strong inversion, saturation, is not going to exceed 20. Okay, and this I am telling you over temperature variations, over processes, over technologies. So whether you pick 90 nanometers, 180 nanometers, 250 nanometers, 45 nanometers, whatever you pick, GM times RDS is not going to exceed 20. Okay? 20 is like a good, really good number. You're not going to go beyond that. When you talk about a beta of a BJT, bipolar junction transistor, the beta can be much higher, can be 100. Right? In this case, GM times RDS is not going to exceed 20. Alright, so in that sense, MOSFETs are significantly inferior to bipolar junction devices. Okay, so for this course we are going to use 20 as a ballpark number for GM times RDS. Can't get better than that. So let's say you are at 20. Any idea of what GM could be? No idea, right? Because it's a quantity which has dimensions. Also, depending on the size of the MOSFET, etc., the GM will increase, decrease. Alright? Now, what you can say is that, let's say I make a good MOSFET with a decent amount of current. Typically, what you'll find is GM will be in the range of millisiemens. Something like 1 millisiemens. So in that case, how much is going to be the RDS? 20 kilo ohms. So if I have a GM of 1 millisiemens, I'll get RDS of 20 kilo ohms. 20 kilo ohms is not really a substantial amount of resistance for a current source. I would like this resistance to be much, much larger. What do I do? First thing you can do is, you can say that I won't use a GM of 1 millisiemens, let me use a GM of 1 microsiemens. Right? You could say that. The problem is that if you use a GM of 1 microsiemens, then the current going through the MOSFET is also going to decrease. How? So the tentative equation that we had for a MOSFET, did I mention a tentative equation for a MOSFET? First order equation? No, okay. So this is something like I'm calling this a tentative equation for a MOSFET. This works only under conditions of strong inversion and saturation. What is strong inversion? This we did talk about. 6 kT by Q above VT. VGS is VT plus more than 6 kT by Q. So VGS minus VT is going to be at least 150 millivolts, if not more. Alright, so that is strong inversion. And what is saturation? Saturation means that you are in the flat part of this curve. You are in this region. This is saturation. Okay, it turns out that if VDS is more than VGS minus VT, which also means that VDS is more than, definitely more than 6 kT by Q, okay, then you are in saturation. So under these circumstances, this particular equation can probably be used if you are talking about long channel devices. So there are a lot of ifs and buts here. That's why I am saying this is a tentative equation. First order. How can you evaluate the value of GM? What is GM? How much? Can you express this in terms of IDS? Okay. Any other way to express it only in terms of IDS, not VGS at all? Can you eliminate V completely? Under root? Okay, this kind of manipulation you should be able to do given the equation. So I'm going to give you the equation over here. This kind of manipulation is elementary. Okay, you should be able to do it off the fly, on the fly. Alright, so what does this tell you? If I want to make GM small, I don't want GM of 1 millisiemens. I want GM of 1 microsiemens. Let's say I want to make GM 100 times smaller. Then what should be the IDS? 10 times? Is it just 10 times? Yes. 10,000 times smaller. Okay. So if I want to make GM 10 times smaller for the same device, okay, same conditions, I will have to make the current 100 times smaller. Okay, that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is, if you look at it from this point of view, from 2 IDS by VGS minus VT point of view. Suppose I say that, alright, I'll keep VGS minus VT constant. I'll fix VGS minus VT. In the earlier case, I had no control of VGS minus VT. I had left out VGS minus VT altogether. Now I'm saying, let me say that I'm going to hold the value of VGS minus VT to be fixed. I'm going to apply only a certain amount of VGS minus VT. I am free to change the dimensions of the device, etc., etc. Okay? Then, for making the current 10 times less, to make GM 10 times less, I will have to scale down the current by 10 times. Is that okay? So I hold the value of VGS minus VT to be the same. If I want to scale the value of GM 10 times, I need to scale the value of IDS also 10 times. So therefore, if I want to have a current source of a given value, I can't really be changing the GM. Once I have defined the current source value, let's say the value of the current source I want is 1 milliampere. So if I want a 1 milliampere current source, I can't think of tweaking the value of GM and getting around the problem. Okay? It's not an option to me, because if I change the value of GM, I'll have to change the value of the current. Alright? So I think we are out of time here, so let me stop. We'll talk about how to improve the output resistance of the current source in spite of all this in the next class. Okay.